Welcome to another tier list video. Just like before, we're taking a look at all the decks from a nation per the rideline. If the rideline has an overlap, they're not included. Most importantly, this time we're taking a look at Keter Sanctuary. The scores are the same as before. Without further ado, I am joined once again by Deli and Silver, and I'm gonna start immediately with Bastion. This time we're taking a look at Bastion Accord. He's the newest version of Bastion and the definitive way of playing the deck. Now, protecting your front row, restanding them, and if your opponent is grade 3, it can give them the drives, meaning you don't have to play the Keter OT anymore, and it's just an amazing deck. I would put it definitely either as a low meta deck, but definitely at the top of relevant. So for the time being, I would go for relevant, but it could definitely be a meta deck.
I think relevant is the right spot to put it.
Yeah. Thing is, it does still keep a little bit of like its Bastion weaknesses. Like rushing it early can still really detriment its strategy, and overall, their big hand size can still be like very elusive compared to how many grade 3 they still run.
Got a bunch of the grade 3 fluff at this point, but there's definitely still the higher amount of ratio in your deck, so can definitely see it get early rushed and get unlucky, but it's strong. It's strong and fun.
Yeah, I feel like the resist is really what tipped it over. The fact that other decks can't really interfere with him.
Yep, for sure.
That is one of my favorite decks. That really made a very far journey, in my opinion, honestly, because when it first came out, it was absolutely trash. Now, however, with Aquamarine, I feel like got into a very good spot, but I feel like the deck size change detrimented it a little bit. You now have less trigger consistency and also just less consistency in getting your persona right. Personally, I've been testing with making it a little bit more defensive so that you can like survive until you see your other persona rights. But I would still call it relevant because the numbers are still pretty big with all the deck stacking.
This deck was very bad in the first 3 iterations. It got a bit better with set 4, but honestly, like in between set 6 and 7, it got its promo, and then it's finally started getting relevant, good. And at this point, I can definitely agree that it's relevant. Especially, it can still break with the deck size change, that it doesn't have its consistency, but just top 2 checking, seeing triggers, and you're golden. Sometimes your opponent doesn't need more than just seeing a lot of triggers against his face and dying.
Yeah, exactly. Like a well-timed double crit or like being able to stack your OT is still like almost every time an instant game win here. So definitely not meta, but it can still take on some meta decks.
Alright. Next up is Photon Blaster Overlord.
Oh, you can plop it right there in fun. This deck, it's something special. Especially like, I can give somebody who's never played Vanguard this deck, let him play, just teach him the rules and just let him go at it. This deck is the ultimate teaching deck, in my opinion. It doesn't do any crazy things. It can just hit hard, do a little combo, but for the rest, it's just, the perfect way of learning the game. It's such a fun time to play this deck. You won't see it like topping, probably. Like, it's good enough to win games. It's just fun. This is, I don't know how else to say it, that this is just an incredibly fun deck.
I do have to agree. The way it plays is also just like throw everything at your opponents. Hope they die. But the thing that keeps it back ultimately is that it doesn't really have a lot of staying power.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It has some very good pieces. It does some very good things. But that if it falls short in some departments when you don't see enough triggers, I think that's a big thing. This deck wants to see triggers because it has 2 attacks with Twin Drive. And when it doesn't do that, it kind of just fizzles away. And it just doesn't have the hand size or enough plussing to really survive the really big push turns from some of the actually good decks.
That brings back, it does what it wants to do pretty well, and it's limited by what it wants to do as well. Like, it has its game plan, and that makes it either good enough to do what it needs to do, or just falls short of being an absolute juggernaut. So it's just fun. Like, yeah, that's all I can say.
All right. Next up, we have Thegrea.
This is a deck that'll make me happy.
See, I really enjoyed playing Thegrea for a while, but then with the newer Thegrea, I feel like it got a bit kind of like it wasn't my thing anymore. It can do 2 persona rides in 1 turn, which is really strong, but you have to break out your deck so hard that you just put in so many of these cards that only do things on turn 4 that your early game, one of the things Thegrea was really good at in the first iteration, just completely falls apart in exchange for a double persona ride, which is not that good, surprisingly. Like, it makes numbers, but there are other decks that make numbers that actually have a really strong early game and still accomplishes a lot more aside of that. Because Thegrea is very reliant on seeing her light and dark form going from the one into the other. And sure, the new Thegrea really helps with that and accelerates it a bit if you do like certain trickeries and techniques. You can persona right on turn 3 and stuff. But mask decks do that too, and they do it better, so I feel like she needs a little bit more love. I don't really know how to fix Thegrea at this point.
I was also just about to say, like, with all the support that she's already gotten, I feel like she belongs more in Irrelevant, because I feel like she's had her chance to become, like, what she needed to be.
Promo was supposed to make it a bit faster, but from what I've seen, it didn't do much, and I might be a bit biased towards this deck because it's never worked for me, and I just feel bad playing this deck. Also, you know, at locals, when people see this deck, this deck just makes me unhappy playing it, and it makes me unhappy when it just bricks. This deck it never got what it needed to be. So yeah, it needs support or is irrelevant. Like, it's either one of the two. I think with the proper care, it could get something, but like Silver said, like, it's high past that point at this point.
Yeah, we could put it into Irrelevant. It's tough because I do think this deck can do things if they survive long enough. I guess surviving that long is just too hard.
And in this meta, I think, yeah. No.
Yeah, there's some really good rush decks out, you know.
Yep, but good news. Thegrea won't have to be there alone for long, because you can slot MLB right next to her.
I disagree.
Agreed.
Like,
MLB never got support, so it's hard to put him in Irrelevant. I guess that does make him irrelevant.
It did kind of get support. It got,
like
like 2
promo.
promos or something?
it got the same support PBO did, and look, PBO does more, in my opinion, than MLB ever does. It needs its pieces, it needs them constantly. That 15k body just does nothing. Like, why did they have to nerf it so hard, and why did they not give it static ability, like the carrot needed? This is just such a shame.
I also just feel like the strategy around him is just too one-dimensional and simplistic. So brain dead to play.
Yeah, you don't have fun while doing it.
If I just like MLB because it's MLB. I don't know. Always had a weak spot for MLB.
Me too. I love MLB. I played it in like PTO 5 back in the day. I still have my OG MLB deck. I played it in V. Like, we did the relay fight, and MLB was like a godsend in that thing. But this version of MLB, like, I got the high rarity versions of it, and I regretted like playing this deck. Like, it's just, I'm just not having fun with it. It's not doing what it wants to do. So I don't feel like it's at the point that it wants to be.
Alright, then moving on, we have Youthberk.
If Sparkles was here right now, he would probably do the thing. But yeah, that's my meta boy. He's very one-dimensional, but he's good. He's full blasting his way to the meta position. Like, he's a bit weaker now with the new deck size, but if it just sees his 2 double rares, yeah, there's nothing you can do except like hope that you see defensives, because this guy just full blasts through your opponent's hand.
I will say I feel like he falls a little bit flat if you don't check triggers.
Slightly, yeah. But then
And
again,
that's also one of its only downsides for as
Yeah.
far as I can see.
all of its skills are just so free at this point. Like, all you need to do is just shuffle for the pieces you need. Hope you don't break on your zest that you run in your deck, and you're good to go. It's so free.
Yeah, I think that's a
But
good way
good.
of putting it. I mean, it's a strong deck. It has, like, it has a good track record in tournament play. I don't really think there's any doubt that it's up there as one of the better decks in the format. Alright, next up, let's move over to Gramgrace. It's a deck. It's a deck. I think it can do things, but other things do what it does better.
I do feel it's pretty like well-rounded in what it does already, though. Like, I would honestly put it more in fun, because when it plays like smoothly, as far as I've seen. I haven't seen a lot of people brick with it.
Yeah, but I just
Also-
feel like it needs more.
I've also not seen a lot of people win with it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just
that-
me.
No, I agree. Like, honestly, this deck would do good with getting a support wave. Like, at least something that's not a grade 3. At least. Just something fun.
Yeah, just I don't know what it needs, but it needs some kind of finishing power. Just something to keep it from just being 4 attacks, drawing a bunch of cards, giving Persona right to back row, falling flat of not being able to kill your opponent.
I'd put it at the top of irrelevant, or definitely for support. It could be fun, but yeah, it just needs more. Yeah, needs support.
Alright, next is Minerva. I
It's your girl.
think she is a very strong and competent deck. A very technical and combo focused deck in a lot of ways. I struggle wrapping my brain around it sometimes.
Mhm.
And I need to think my plays through, which has caused me pain on many occasions. Maybe that's just me not being that good at soul management, which, yes, I'm not that good at soul management. That's a different topic. However, this deck can push out a lot of attacks, has good numbers, can recycle its resources now with the new cards. It can keep going. The 4 extra card slots is both a buff and a nerf, because now you have less consistency on seeing your Genesis cards, but you don't deck out as fast. So in that sense, it's both a buff and a nerf. You have more slots to work with, so you can actually add some new pieces in, which is kind of helpful. But yeah, besides that, it tries to do a big turn play with a Persona right numbers, just a bunch of attacks, hope the opponent dies. Surprisingly, can still have quite a bit of hand size, because you bounce the grade 1s back to hand. You have a triple drive, oh, no, not a triple, you have a twin drive, then restand with another drive. It can put a lot of pressure on your opponent, but if you run out of resources, you just sit there and cry to yourself about not being able to do anything. Which, yes, it's better now with the new cards, definitely, but it can still happen if you're not careful.
Yeah, I think in general your hope with Minerva is to make sure that you kill the opponent before they have the chance to damage deny you, or at least keep like 1 or 2 CB open if it's not your kill turn yet. But I do like that she's also very, very flexible. Like, you can go full blast with her combos, or you can just be like, okay, no, he checked the defensive, let me tone it down a little, I'll skip 2 attacks this turn and conserve my resources and still be in a pretty good spot.
It's a very good point. The attacks are optional, it's quite flexible in that way.
Mainly faced Minervas. Like, I have the deck, but I've only played it like once or twice, so I've mainly played against it or tested against it, and I can definitely see when somebody knows the deck, or somebody's using the deck and is just hoping to sack. And you can really tell just by the early plays, or by the setup they make, or the push turns they make at certain points in the game. It's just like you said, it's just a very high technical deck, and I like that about it.
I also put it in front of Hexaorb, to be honest, because unlike when Hexaorb doesn't see a Persona Ride, it completely falls flat. At least Minerva has that like plus 5k to the front row buff at every time. That really like helps it with the combos and the multi attacks.
Yeah.
Halves push numbers for sure. Makes most 20k or 10k. Rear guards 15, which actually hits. Alright, next up, the Pope of Cope. Solairon himself.
Without the Satu support yet.
Yeah, we did
it's hard, right? Because
yeah, we did get the Satu skills already, so we know what it's getting partially, and it's a bit better, but we put it at a cap for DZBT01. So technically we know that it's getting some support, so we could technically add it in, but I'll let Deli explain why he's going to put it where it's going to go, I guess. Because we tested. Yeah.
This deck can go quite hard if you go first. And it can make some really nice power columns and numbers. It's really nice. But a lot of aggro plays when going first. However, if you get to turn 4, God forbid you get to turn 5, the deck doesn't do anything anymore, because either you don't have cards in your hand anymore, you don't have resources anymore to do anything with, or you're dead. Now if you're going second, it's actually worse, because even on your first grade 3 turn, you're already losing. I love this deck personally, I really do like Solairon a lot. I can't get over the fact that he's just really bad. Now, yes, we just got some new support for him, and that makes him actually playable, and I would probably put him here-ish. Might need to get more testing to make sure about that, but for now, before the new support, I definitely don't think he's anywhere near playable. I've tried multiple times.
Kind of put him in C, the Pope of Cope.
Yeah, C for Cope.
He needs the support. He's kind of getting the support, but he needs it. He definitely needs it. It's a bit double, but yeah, this guy. Oh Lord.
On to Rider things.
It's Radiant's favorite boy.
He's not my favorite boy, but he is Gold Paladin. He definitely is. We appreciate that, but he needs support. Give us Platina Ezel and give him to me next set. I need it. If you want to give me Garmor, that's even better, but let's be real. We're getting Platina Ezel or Ravenhaired Ezel or Ezel Scissors.
You're very confident.
I would be more than happy with Platina Ezel so we can stop having that bad gameplay. Ezel is, he tries to do stuff, but he's so restricted because of his gimmick, and his gimmick isn't even good in D. So
It's horrible, actually. You're literally just doing nothing for 2 turns while your opponent is catching up.
Yeah, it's such a shame. You drive check, and then if you're like me at playtesting sessions, you see 0 triggers, you just draw them for your start of turn, or you send them to the bottom of your deck because you're trying to do Ezel's ride face skill, and you just feel bad. That's my Ezel experience at the moment. Give us Platina Ezel, give us something else to do something in the early game, and we're golden. Yeah.
That's a terrible pun. But I do agree with what he said. I think Ezel, it has a base line that it can work with, and it just needs a little bit more oomph. It needs finishing power.
It needs a strategy, if we're honest. Right now it doesn't have one.
Right up, swing hard, unga bunga.
It gets superior, right? That's its strategy. now it just needs something to actually do once it's superior, right?
I'd love to see a meme like rides superiorly. And just like disdainful Ezel.
Alright, next up we have Balden. I'll put
I
in
like
B for
Balden.
Bald.
Not gonna lie, I have never seen this deck in action, so it's a bit hard for me to assess how strong it is.
Oh, it's fun. It's definitely fun, especially with the promo, because it can do multi-attacks and stuff. It gets some resources. It could be better, but it's definitely fun.
I think it definitely belongs in the fun tier. It has raw power, it has multi-attacks, it has a really good ride line. It has everything that you could ask for in a Keter deck. It's also probably one of the easiest decks to teach someone. It's conveniently also next to PBO.
Yeah.
It just has very simple but strong mechanics, and it functions really interestingly with different grades, which kind of, because Bastion is grade 3 focused, Alden is his right hand man in my eyes. He's focused on variations of grades, which I thought was really cool when I first read him. He does 5 attacks, he makes fine numbers with some cards. The promo being a grade 0 allows for a lot of flexibility. It's all in all, it's pretty solid. I do think it is pretty solid.
I do agree with what you said, like lore-wise, he's the bridge between Youthberk and Bastion, like their understanding, because he bridges both worlds a bit, both sides of the Keter struggle. So I really like that part about him. And yeah, I have the deck, and I should admit that I actually want to spend some more time just having fun with it, just going to locals with this deck in particular. But like the time frame that we're in currently kind of dictates that we have to playtest, so it doesn't get the chance to shine as much as I feel like it should, mainly because of the next unit that we're about to discuss.
Yeah, next up we have Big Funny Hat Man.
Oh no,
Luard.
Format Breaker. Oh no.
He's a unit, alright.
He's fun. Like the deck really needs the promo. Like give us the dog. I'll put in the dog. Like we need that boy. He's very good for all of the Keter decks, but in Luard he just pushes the deck towards the level that it really needs to be to like annoy Shiranui enough. But this deck is really good. Like straight out of the box, it's definitely playable. It's easy to upgrade, and it's definitely a good way if you want to start playing in the current format. It does exactly what it wants to do.
Yeah, agreed.
I have nothing to add to this. It's just strong.
Yep.
Yeah, just a solid, strong stride deck. It does what it wants to do. It
I would-
hits you.
I would say maybe beneath Youthberk, because it is still a stride deck that will have no benefits from going first. So I don't know. That's also kind of my strategy when I see that my opponent has a G zone. Like, oh, you can go first. When in the cases where I get to choose, and then usually they can't really keep up with the pace anymore.
Luard, I want to put Youthberg before him just to anger the masses. I'm challenging you all.
Oh God.
Please leave a
Let
comment
the
if
new
you
Edge
agree.
boy be first.
Leave a comment for every Luard player that cried.
Crucify me. I dare you.
Okay, next we move over to Leuhan.
Horse boy, he's fun. We tested him this week actually, and at first I was like, "Oh, horse guy. Wow, this deck is lame." But if you have the promo, once again, doggy, then this guy's incredibly fun. It doesn't like it has things it needs. It definitely would benefit from a support wave as well, but it's fun enough. It can stall out games fairly long actually, and it's crazy consistent. It can definitely cycle through everything it needs and just do what a Keter deck wants to do. I would definitely like put it on top of fun because it just works.
Yeah, I got to be the receiving end of that testing, and it does numbers. It does 2 swings with Vanguard, which is really strong. It has some decent rearguard pressure. It pluses a lot because of the dog. The only downside, in my opinion, is that the second drives don't go to hand. But I felt that constantly he still had a really big hand size. I was playing Shiranui against it, and he still was having a really good time against, which was arguably the best deck in the format right now. So yeah, I think Leuhan is quite decent. I think he's quite decent.
It was surprising. I did not expect it to do this. Like, it goes to show that I can randomly just find something that just does what it wants to do, and does it quite well.
Yeah. Alright, moving on to... I don't even know this thing's name.
Is.
I know its name. It's something glorious dragon. It's a
Is
promo.
it glorious?
It's not glorious because it's order based, and it makes me sad. Like I took one look at this, I tested it once, and I was like, hey, no, we don't need this. But
yeah,
it's getting a promo. Its promo is coming in English pretty soon. It's order based. It can probably benefit from the Blaster Dark ride line. But no, nobody's gonna play this. Next.
Well, that's like,
alright.
Yeah, so it works around orders. It gives it some extra power, but more than that it doesn't do. And when you just compare it to everything else, it has dedicated support and all of that, I feel like it falls flat in comparison to other things. This does have a decent enough skill to where I could see if it actually got synergistic cards, it could go up. But for now, it's definitely just irrelevant.
For sure.
Alright, so next up we have the start of the Divine Arrow with the Archer man. Sarevsael?
Sorry.
These all kind of fall in the same category, to be honest. They're all like very basic and very generic, but like they don't really have enough generic supports to make themselves work very well.
I would put it at the top of needs supports, because once again, this is a deck that definitely benefits from Dog. Once again, Dog is just doing stuff, and it goes into a new direction that it can do stuff. It has the energy mechanic built into it. It can filter out its persona rides. So with the correct support, Sarevsael could probably be a good deck. But yeah, like we said with the Blitz guy, it needs more. It needs more.
Yeah. I don't think there's much else to say about that. For the last Keter rideline, call it that, we have
the fake angel feather.
The Divine himself.
I think it's relevant. I would honestly put it between Hexaorb and Minerva, because this deck can do some serious damage. I think it's incredibly fun. I'm really looking forward to playing it. I hope by that time we've gotten the promos that we need for it. But yeah, I like Malkuth, and this kind of reminds me of Malkuth a lot. And yeah, I'm just hyped for this thing. Yeah, the Divine skill was practically made for me.
Yeah, that Divine skill is very, very unique, actually. Furthermore, it also really, really works well with the Dog again. Like, I feel like the Dog was almost made for this deck.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously the Dog retires itself, but like, Rezael just keeps bringing it back and back and back and back.
Yeah, I mean, it has potential to just throw a bunch of cards, the Dog, and then when it actually wants to finish out, it can just do 5 attacks instead. It's a deck that keeps getting stronger the longer the fight goes on, and then once you put those triggers back, well, crits to be precise, you have a very filled deck with triggers, and you get quite a high chance of checking a critical trigger. In general, it is very strong in Vanguard. That's why I would put it at the top of relevant. It can use any generic support, which Keter does have a lot of good generic supports. Definitely helps its case. It also got some decent, like, its own support. So to me, this is one of the better Keter decks right now.
Yeah, it's good at the gate, like, for sure. I'm gonna agree with its top position. Like, I played it during the release week of Divines in Japanese, and yeah, I'm just excited to start playing it in English. So
Yeah, I think a lot of people are very excited for Divines to come out. Tell us in the comments what you think about the Divine release. As we move on over to our last ride line for this tier list.
is that the Dragon of Cataclysm? The Dragon Tree? Is it irrelevant? It's
Absolutely.
it just stays in the bottom. Nobody. If you play Keter, don't play this. Like, look at it from afar. There's literally no reason for you to play this. This was not made for Keter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. It can really only use the generic supports, which again, Keter does have a lot of good generic support. But besides that, it never really got any mask unit, Keter, so it doesn't have that much like Dragon Tree marker support at all. So also the Keter OT is not that good, let's be honest. You can do better than like Grifo and Keter.
Just don't. Do yourself a favor.
Alright, I think we're done here then.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you for the next one. I do believe we'll change up the lineup quite a bit. Well, quite a bit. I'll just not be here for the next one, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and tell us what you think.